Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Central. The countdown to the end of the year still is on, and here on Breakfast Central we'll be reviewing the year in view and expecting, making projections for the year to come. We apologize for starting slightly behind schedule, and we will continue from here on to a smooth show. My name is Olive Emodi, and you're very, very welcome to the show.
I'm Joe Hansen, and welcoming you again to the final, we could say, final day in the working week, headed into the weekend, because the weekend starts from today. But in Lagos, I wouldn't say it's been a weekday. It's been a complete disaster filled with traffic and a sprinkle of pain and stress, especially started off from last week, and we've seen it continue up until now, where Lagosians are starting to feel like they are being beaten, they're being stressed, they're being dealt with just because they say we are outside or because it's the Yuletide season. The traffic is something you do not want to experience, because just taking a look at it, even from the videos, you'd be like, I'm not going outside. I
don't know what's going on, but everybody and their mummies are on the road. Please, you people should sit down in your houses. I don't understand. The traffic is ridiculous. IJGBs, of course, I just got back. I'm back in town, and they're still coming in their numbers.
Absolutely.
And I saw a video. There's this lady on Instagram, Okwe, I'm trying to remember her handle now. And she did a video that I laughed out loud at, and I could totally relate to the video. And the video was basically laughing at the IJGBs that, oh, you think that last year's bowling dollars is the same bowling dollars for this year? She said, yeah, upsy daisy. She said that the people that her friends had complained to her that the budget that they had for 4 weeks of dirty December, they finished it in 1 week. I said,
wow.
you don't know what's going on. So what they budgeted, what they would typically spend in 4 weeks, they've exhausted in 1 week.
They should stay in the house.
You don't know what's going on.
They should stay inside the house.
All of us, we feel it together.
I agree with you, because last year, December, despite the fact that the dollar was very strong in terms of due to the fall of the naira, then it was 1,000, I think, was it 1.7 or something, or 1.6?
I can't even remember anymore.
Yeah, in between, I can't remember though. But the prices of food and commodities and all that wasn't as what we have now.
No, this is like
300%, 200. It's high. It's so really they never expected it, but I get it. But what I'm worried about is, right from the early hours of the afternoon, the road is blocked already.
Is it early hours of the whole day? The whole day. It feels like everywhere. Once you go outside, first of all, inhale, exhale, 100,000 is gone. Then you're sleeping in traffic. Even worse is the cab hailing apps. Ooh. You try to take a taxi a short distance. A short distance, I would typically pay 1,000 naira for.
Okay.
Because it's just like a 3-minute ride. Or a 5-minute ride, let me not exaggerate. I'm paying 6,000 naira for it.
Yeah.
So right now it's not just the greatest time. And Nigerian guys and girls, babies, please don't try to compete with your IJGB friends. It's fine.
No, that was trending on Twitter yesterday. And everybody was saying maybe the IJGB thinks that when they come, for want of words, please, let's just use the locals. Would have to bow to them because they're coming with exchange rates.
Yes.
I don't really think so, too.
I bow to you, my dear. My naira and your money are not the same.
No,
please,
I
when
don't
we go out, please come and spoil me. I need help. Please, I'm very humble and loyal.
Anyway, let's talk about, as we start off the breakfast show this morning, let's talk about an incident that took place recently. Now, regardless of the fact that Nigerians are struggling with the current state of economy, and most importantly, trying their best to put food on the table, a lot of family heads this morning, in short, right from the start of the year down to the middle of the year and this month, a lot of family heads are starting to think how they will be able to provide their children with the basics, not to talk of during the Yuletide season. But then again, somewhere, somehow, a video has been circulating, and we are looking for a lady. So, being a TV station that indeed supports the cause of ensuring that nobody should be cheated, that's why we always speak out, we decided to jump on this particular story and also see if we can make public this lady who's been wanted by the police. Now, what happened? Okay, let me share the story with you, okay, this morning. Now, a visually impaired widow in Anambra actually fell victim to a yet-to-be-identified woman You're going to see her in the video pretty soon. She allegedly stole the widow's automated teller machine card and then emptied her account, and her money was 2 million naira. She emptied the account of 2 million naira in this economy, all right? Let's take a look and see if we can find that video and put that video up so you can get to see who this lady is. Now, that's a picture up there. She's acting like she's trying to help the woman, and there you go. Very fast, she switched the card. Very quickly, she just did that. And the other two guys standing next to her, her accomplices, they work together.
My God.
And then the woman is trying all she could. She tells her, oh, press, do this, do that. And the next thing you see is she would walk away from there. She's taken the card already. She's achieved the course. And next thing we do here in this story, they emptied this woman's account, 2 million naira.
My goodness.
Just take a look. We're going to really try and see. Just watch when she brings out the card and then she switches it. Can you see that?
Wow.
Very quick. She switches it and she's gone.
First of all, how did they know that this woman, I don't understand.
She's visually impaired.
I know, so but my question is, for her to have been able to think so quickly on her feet, is it that she's a perpetual thief?
Oh, yes.
Or she had information that the woman was
This is a cartel.
going.
This is what they do.
And so how was it a targeted attack?
Okay.
Because, I mean, I don't know that you just go to the ATM planning to steal.
Okay, so let me say this here on air. You have these people, this cartel, they are everywhere. I was talking to, our producer, Amazing Addition, and she said that's why older people don't like going to the ATMs. And that's true. Because you would find that most people at the ATM, when they get stuck, they're like, my Pekin or something, please help me. How do I? That is what they know when they see older people. They take advantage of them. That's what they always do. In short, I've tried using an ATM before, and I could hear them from the back. Oh, guy, is he paying? Do you have any challenge? And I'm like, hello, can you take a look at me again? Do you think I'm not tech savvy or I don't know what I'm doing? And they're like, do you have any problem? They act like they don't know each other. And that's exactly what you saw play out right there on the screen. The two guys standing for the opposite side, and they're talking, oh, madam, do this, do that. All they need is just to switch the card. And they have all cards. That's why you have them, you see them with different cards. All banks, they have them. So once they see, oh, you're using, I don't want to mention the bank, okay, fine. They get the card ready. And that's exactly what we saw in the video. 2 million naira gone.
My goodness. Okay, so I'm hoping that in this case, we can, the police will swing into action, find the lady and arrest her. But then again, I always talk about our value system on this show, and that's something that points to it, because there's no amount of, I know that there's hunger, and I know that, it's been a hard time for Nigerians, but you steal from a visually impaired person, that's like, you're at the bottom of the barrel. Like, you are the most despicable person, the bottom of the barrel person. For you to have the heart to steal from somebody who is visually impaired, an older woman who is visually impaired, like, she's already trying to navigate a country that hasn't yet come to a point where she can be totally inclusive and independent. We already know that in certain other climes, people who are visually impaired have better quality of life. Because facilities are made with, inclusion in mind. Banks, stairways, there's wheelchair access. They are thinking of people who are differently abled. But, we're not yet completely there in Nigeria. So she already has to battle the challenges that she has to battle with in life. Then you go and steal from her. I hope she's caught. And, as if she's found, if truly, because I don't know, I can't say clearly what I saw in that video, but if she's found to be the one who stole from that woman, I hope that she's caught and she languishes in jail.
You know the annoying thing? She even wore a Titanic shirt. She even wore a Titanic t-shirt.
To show that she's going to sing.
She's Titanic.
No, that's to show that she's going to sing.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway.
She had better.
This festive season, we just want to urge people to be careful, to be safe, be on the lookout. There are many people who are on the prowl. The country has been in a very, very tough place. People are trying to make ends meet, and as a result, unfortunately, the result of that would be that people will go to extreme measures to do things that should not be comprehensible to the human mind, or that should not be imagined by the human mind. So please, this festive season, those who are coming into the country, those who are in here, be alert, be careful, and stay safe.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. Let's take a look at some of the biggest stories making the headlines this morning. We start off in northern Nigeria, where a bomb explosion in the Basa community in Shiroro local government area of Niger State has left one person dead and 4 others injured. Eyewitnesses say the blast occurred Thursday morning as the victims were heading to their farms. Ahmed Al-Mustafa, a local resident, confirmed that 3 of the injured lost their legs and are currently being treated at the IBB Specialist Hospital. Al-Mustafa, who is related to 3 of the victims, revealed that this marks the second bomb explosion in Basorun this month. Away from that sad story, let's tell you that the Oyo State Police Command has arrested the ex-queen of the Ooni of Ife, Naomi, and 7 others in connection with a deadly stampede at a funfair in Ibadan on Wednesday. The incident held at Islamic High School, Basorun, claimed the lives of 35 children, with 6 others critically injured, and also police spokesman Adiwale Osifeso confirmed the event organized by Wings Foundation in collaboration with Agidigbo FM exceeded its 5,000 capacity, drawing over 7,500 attendees. Let's move on now to our next story. President Bola Tinubu has expressed deep sorrow over the tragic stampede at a children's fun fair in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, which claimed the lives of several children and left others injured. In a statement, the president extended heartfelt condolences to the Oyo State government and the grieving families, offering prayers for the souls of the departed. President Tinubu has ordered a thorough investigation into the incident, emphasizing the need to determine if negligence or deliberate actions were involved. He urged the Oyo State government to review safety measures for public events, enforce regulations, and conduct regular venue audits to prevent future tragedies. We now head to the Parliament. The Nigerian Senate has passed the 2025 budget of 49.7 trillion naira for a second reading following deliberations during Thursday's plenary session. Senators praised President Bola Tinubu for his vision and commitment to national development as reflected in the proposed budget, which aims to restore peace and prosperity. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, referred the budget to the Committee on Appropriations, chaired by Senator Solomon Adiola, for further scrutiny. And finally, in West Africa, a court in Guinea has sentenced a former defense minister, Mohamed Diagne, to 5 years in prison for corruption, illicit enrichment, embezzlement, and money laundering. Mohamed Diagne served as defense minister between 2015 and 2021 under President Alpha Conde before the army seized power. He was also ordered to pay a $58.5 million fine while his bank accounts and property in the capital Conakry and the eastern city of Kankan were confiscated by the state. The judge said the assets were to be seized as their origin could not be justified. And that's all we have for you here on Breakfast Headlines. Make sure you join us again at 9 a.m. to get more, especially with news from around the continent. Let's go straight to breakfast here on News Central. Stay with us.
The 2025 budget proposal of 49.7 trillion naira has passed the second reading in both chambers of the National Assembly. This comes a day after President Bola Tinubu presented the budget to a joint session of Parliament, with lawmakers commending the president for allocating more resources to key sectors of the economy. Our correspondent Idong Joseph has more on this.
The 2025 appropriation bill presented by President Bola Tinubu to a joint session of the National Assembly is now being read by the majority leaders of both chambers of parliament to commence debate on its general principles.
Mr. President, my highly esteemed colleagues, this bill seeks to authorize recognize the issue out of the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the total sum of 49 trillion 740 billion 165 million 355,396 naira only.
Lawmakers spoke one after the other, as many of them commended the president for allocating more funds to the security sector.
Given all that we have faced as a nation with regards to insecurity, I am now convinced, more than ever before, that none of those other important sectors can be safe unless we have security.
Tackling security will have a multiplier effect on the development. And I think that is the major essence of any budget.
Mr. President, defense and security is getting 4.91 trillion naira. To my mind, this is not even enough.
Some lawmakers urged the executive to invest more in agriculture and other vital sectors. Others urged their colleagues to ensure thorough scrutiny of the budgets to minimize costs, as various ministries, departments and agencies are being required to defend their proposal.
We budget for vehicles every year. We budget for utensils every year. So what I would like us to do, sir, to open more revenues or block loopholes, is to look at all these ministries that are bringing their budgets. If they bought vehicles last year, please, they should just relax now. Vehicles do not expire.
After debating the 2025 appropriation bill for about 5 hours, the House of Representatives decided to amend the capital components of the 2024 Appropriation Act to extend its deadline from December 31st to June 30th, 2025. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Thank you so much for that report, Idong Joseph. Well, it's clear we've talked about this, and it's a conversation we're also going to have later on today on the show. Most importantly, Nigerians have gone ahead to ensure that they dig up and study carefully the appropriation bill, especially looking at the proposed budget for Nigeria, especially the one that was presented by the president just a fortnight. There are questions that needs to be answered in that bill. Olive, there were questions around the monies that have reoccurred again, especially looking at monies for cars again, monies for Aso Rock again, so many, but we wouldn't delve into that right now. It's a conversation we're going to have in the course of Breakfast Central. But let's go straight to our next story. Now, it's been 17 days since human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi was picked up from his Lagos office and transported to Ekiti State, where he is now expected to be tried for alleged defamation. Now, a case filed by the Nigerian police on behalf of veteran legal practitioner Afe Babalola. Medicals have been made by several individuals and bodies for Farotimi's release, but to no avail. Many worry that Dele Farotimi may be in detention by Christmas or even beyond. His continued detention has been tagged as breach of right to bail. The argument continues as to whether this is a criminal case, but Nigerians in some quarters of the world continue to watch as the case unfolds. We have joining us now to discuss this, public affairs analyst Charles Oludare Marindoti joins us this morning. I know you've been following this story from where you are very closely. Just like we said, it's been 17 days. In order not to preempt the court and also to talk about this situation, you would agree with me that every Nigerian has a different view of what's really happening. Can you share with us what your views are looking at today, which happens to be a day where we would know what will, happen at the end of the day for Farotimi as well?
Personally, I don't know if there's anybody in Nigeria that I personally don't like more than Dele Farotimi. As a person, I watch his interviews, I can't even stand him talk. Compared to, a legal luminary like Afe Babalola, who, has a university, has a hospital, has done a lot of good things. He's a 95-year-old, great-grandfather. But one thing that I don't like more than a lawyer that I don't like and that I respect less than a legal luminary that I really respect is a bully. I don't like bullies at all because I feel like what is happening to Dele Farotimi is essentially him being bullied. And this is not something unique to, maybe Afe Babalola or anybody. Something that happened even in popular culture, in the case of Burna Boy versus, Darlington or Davido versus Dami Crane, where the opinion or the emotions of one person is enough to jail another person. It is wrong. And I'm going to repeat this thing a lot during this interview, that I don't like them. I don't like him as a person. But that does not mean that his rights should be infringed upon. He wrote a book. And guess what? A man that I said I can barely stand, I bought the book. And I have bought a few of it for friends and everybody who cares to listen, because this shows that there is a bit of credence. What he is going through right now shows that there is a bit of credence in whatever he is alleging, because a man wrote a book about a corrupt legal system, and that same legal system is being weaponized to keep him behind bars. For what? I read the book. He even said in the book that in 2016 he was the first person to sue Afe Babalola for libel, and Afe Babalola was put to jail that time. Now this time when Afe Babalola is suing him for libel, he is being put to jail for what? For writing a book? I don't get it. The criminal libel law, whether it's even valid in Ekiti State, is something that is debatable. But think about it. Someone was arrested in Lagos. They didn't charge him in Lagos. They didn't charge him in Ibadan, Osun, Ondo. They went all the way to Ekiti State to charge him. There's something called selective justice, but there's also something called selecting justice. And I think it's more of the latter than even the former, or even though it's a combination of both, because there is nothing this man has done that should warrant him being incarcerated right now. You have charged him. He has a right to defend himself.
All right, Dustin, but there is a network challenge of some sort. Let's hope that we can reconnect with him and continue the conversation shortly. But I mean, I like the fact that he's expressed his thoughts in the sense of someone who is, quote unquote, taking out sentiment. He's first said he doesn't like Dele Farotimi for anything, but that regardless of the fact that he doesn't like Dele Farotimi, he also doesn't like bullying. It's really interesting to find out why he doesn't like Dele Farotimi. Maybe I'll ask him that on a much lighter note.
But he also said that whenever he speaks, he likes to listen to what he says.
No. He said he doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it?
He said, I've listened to his podcast, I've listened to his interviews, I don't like him for anything. However, what I don't like much more than I don't like him is I don't like bullying, something in that line. But it would be great to find out what it is. Now, the Dele Farotimi case picked up steam right from the moment he was being arrested. Several public figures noteworthy of, worthy of mention, several public figures, and even everyday Nigerians lent their voice to asking that Dele Farotimi be released. They cried foul, saying that the learned SAN was in this case bullying Dele Farotimi and playing out the allegations that were written about in the book, talking about the corruption of Nigeria's criminal justice system and the role of the judiciary. If you recall, this case started many years ago. It was a case, involving the Eletu farmland, and a judgment had been delivered apportioning certain amounts of land, I think 254 acres, I'm not quite sure which one. But then at some point they came back when it was time for enforcement, they came back and said there was a mistake and that it was 10. And the question was, how do you make a mistake to say 254 and then come back to say that, it was a mistake, it was a clinical error, that it should be 10. So there's just a lot of back and forth, about this whole scenario. And Dele Farotimi had been clear right from the jump about knowing he stands to be the truth, according to him, and saying he's not afraid of litigation, and that the worst that he can do is take him to court, and that he will meet them in court. But and the majority of Nigerians were not concerned about the fact that he was taken to court. It's the manner, like you can see in the video, the bandit-like manner in which he was carted out of Lagos and taken to Ekiti to be arraigned in Ekiti. And then the issue that came up was, where was the crime committed? Where was the book, the defamatory material published? The defamatory material in this case was published in Lagos. All right, we have Maridoti back. Please go ahead with your statement. You were speaking about, out of curiosity, what is it about Dele Faratimi that, that you do not like?
Personally, maybe because we share opposing political views, maybe because he gets so assertive when he's criticizing something. I feel like, sometimes I might have an opinion, but I should be aware that sometimes I might be wrong, right? He's so assertive about everything. He calls people names and stuff like that. I don't like it. I feel like, it could be a little bit more nuanced in his conversations, but so that is the reason why I don't pay attention to him. But guess what? I bought his book right now because it is just basic human decency. And, like we were saying, there was a case of libel that occurred, in Nigeria not ago, where a guy called very blockhead, what I call him, libeled senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana. And what did that man do? That man is a decent man. He took him to court for civil libel, and he got a judgment in his own favor. That is the remedy for civil libel. And when I even read this book, I don't see anything in that book that was, libelous in my own opinion, because he used words like corrupted. He never said somebody paid bribe. Anything can corrupt anything. If your father is seated on your case, that does not mean you are going to give your father money and for him to find in your favor. And that can be a form of corruption. People who get kidnapped, like when they kidnapped people in Joyala, they were trying to corrupt a decision. That is not bribery. It's a different thing. So, and the issue of criminal libel is a way whereby powerful people have been able to subdue the powerless. And I feel like personally, I find it a little bit sad and disheartening that some members of the media have sympathy for, the aggressor, in my opinion, in this case, because what they fail to realize is that these same laws can be used against them. And that is what we can't allow. We cannot have a system whereby might means right, because we can't be almighty. Some of us are going to be the little ones, and the little ones should have a right to live in peace. Here, a man wrote a book based on his own point of view. If you have anything about it, the civil avenue, they have always been there. And what about the manner of taking him from Lagos to Ekiti, the hometown of this legal luminary? And now the man is being denied bail after a federal judge granted him bail. A magistrate court judge, kept him there. Now they are going to have this case today, and they might just still adjourn for whatever reason, which kind of give credence to what Dele Faratimi said in his book, that when he sued Afe Babalola for libel, they didn't let the case get to the court. It was thrown out by a particular judge who was the chairman in his own wedding, who probably should have recused himself based on the fact that she was the first person to employ him as a lawyer, and she was the chairman in his own wedding.
Okay, I'm actually glad.
She believed there was a connivance there.
Yes, and I remember that particular story where he talked about the particular judge not being in his favor, even though she was the chairman at his wedding, and he felt like the case was deliberately assigned to her to frustrate him rather. But let's talk about your thoughts. He explained a lot of things in that book. He talked about the criminal justice system. Do you share similar sentiment about the rot in Nigeria's criminal justice system? All right. Quite a struggle having a conversation this morning, but we'll keep trying to, finalize that conversation so that we can move on to other things. Yes, welcome back. Do you share same sentiment about the rot in Nigeria's criminal justice system?
Yes, so personally, I also have a certain type of perspective about the Nigerian criminal justice system, because I feel it is, it's corrupted. When Emefiele decided to change the currency, I took CBN to court, and to my dismay, I only asked the judge to, explain a particular part of the CBN Act, but Hello, are you still with me?
Yes,
we're
we
with
are.
you.
Go ahead.
Anyway, well, I think at this juncture, we'll try as much
Are
as
you with me now?
possible.
Yes, we are.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, yes. So I was just talking about the fact that I took CBN to court to ask the judge to, explain the particular line in the CBN Act. And at the end of the case, the judge decided not to, just give an interpretation to an act that Nigerians will still be able to redeem their money, that they don't lose their money, that their money does not become useless in their hand. And a judge could not even interpret that simple part of the law. I felt it was kind of like, and that is something that makes me feel like there might be a fear of repercussion or something that makes a lot of people a lot of judges not to be bold enough to follow their arts. And that does not have to mean that somebody is giving anybody money. It just means it's corrupt. The situation of the system, the judges are also Nigerians. They have to pay for electricity and all of that. So we have to understand that these things are a little bit clumsy, and it might take us a long period before we can remedy the mess that is our judicial system. But what Daily Farotimi has written and what he is going through right now, they all fall in line with the fact that it is justice for me, not for thee. The treatment in our judicial system does not feel equal. It is the judicial system. A lot of people say Babangida and not the June 12 election, but it was the judiciary that was used. It was the judge that actually annulled the election. So when we look at the basic fact of this case, it shows something that leaves much to be desired, and we need to keep on working on it. I think a book like this should be extolled and even praised for its own perspective, and there should be more intellectual conversations about how to improve our judicial system, as opposed to him now being vilified. I think it is wrong. This man is a family man that deserves to be with his wife and children.
All right, that's part one to the question. The second part of the question is, if you say and you agree that Nigeria's criminal justice system is, flawed, highly flawed, and they've been accused of abusing human rights or not upholding human rights in cases where they should have, would you say that the current administration has made it better or worse?
Anyway, I think we seem to struggle with the network connectivity here in this conversation. We look forward to bring this conversation back. But don't forget that Mr. Dele Farotimi would be back in the courts today. Today marks December 20. That's when he's supposed to return. And we'll keep you updated and let you know what the updates are. Hopefully, we should be having our correspondent join us live from there. And we'll be looking at what the situation would be. Many have said that he's going to regain his freedom today, despite the fact that it seems inappropriate to have ensured that he is locked up in prison with handcuffs. If you recall, when Nigerians had said that he's being detained in handcuffs, especially the first day in that picture image that you see, the second time he appeared in court, they no longer used the handcuffs on him because the comparison was indeed loud, where they compared his situation and that of a governor who was also allegedly said to have, stolen funds from the government coffers. Well, we'll give you more updates on Dele Farotimi's case, but a lot is happening on social media. You might want to follow us on socials. You would see some of the latest tweets and the latest updates concerning that story. So keep tabs with it as we build up to when he would indeed appear in court. But away from that, let's check out one next story that everyone is talking about. The appropriation bill was indeed presented by President Bola Tinubu, and he prioritized 4 key sectors of the economy in his 2025 budget. Now, the budget proposal of 49.7 trillion naira passed the second reading in both chambers of the National Assembly. I mean, this is after it was presented by the president in the joint session of the parliament with lawmakers on Wednesday.
The budget, which has been themed as a restoration budget, poised to secure peace and rebuild prosperity, has 4.91 trillion allocated to the defense and security sector, 4.06 trillion naira allocated to infrastructure, 3.52 trillion and 2.48 trillion naira allocated to education and health sectors, respectively. The government's proposed 49.7 trillion naira budget has a projected deficit of 13.39 trillion to be financed through borrowing. Joining us to discuss the proposed budget is the Executive Director of Paradigm Leadership Support Initiative, Olusegun Lemo. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to join.
All right, let's get a general sense of the budget. Will you say that you're pleased? Do you agree that the budget has been rightfully coined or termed the budget of restoration, or do you think that it's an overambitious one?
Well, in terms of the nomenclature, the christening of the budget, that has very little to do in reality in terms of performance. But talking about the fundamental parameters by which the budget was structured, I think there were components of the budget there are components of the budget that are overly ambitious. There are other components that appear feasible, and I will give you, those numbers. I think the president projecting that we will pump 2.06 million barrel per day of crude oil appears a little bit feasible, considering where we're coming from. We were coming from at the point when he took over the office, we were around 1.3, 1.4 million barrels per day. Now we're hovering around 1.7. And it appears that the president has some goodwill in the oil-producing communities, particularly in the Niger Delta. So with that, and with the clampdown of the military on saboteurs and those who are tapping the pipelines, I think we may maybe not get to 2.06 in precision, but maybe something near that, maybe around 1.8, 1.9 million barrel per day. So that gives us some headroom in terms of foreign exchange inflows into the federation's account. And then again, when you look at the exchange rate, the president projected that the exchange rate will now moderate around 1,500 naira to the dollar. I think that is also appears feasible, considering that there's some stability in the FX market currently. After the floating of the naira and some of the initiatives of the central bank, ensuring that the verification of the exchange rate has now been digitized, such that planning can be easy for both those who are trading and all of that. So I think that that also appears a little bit feasible, maybe not in precision again, 1,500, but we can moderate around 1,550, and maybe a little bit to the extreme, 1,600. So that's also taken. What I think that the president is overly ambitious about is the issue of the inflation. I think the president projecting that the inflation will slow down to 15% is overly ambitious and at best a theoretical submission. I think in practical, you might not likely have inflation slow down to as low as 15%, considering that we are now at 34%. Well, if we have considerable, local production in terms of, for instance, we're limiting our import, of course, maybe closing it down completely, import of refined petroleum products, and now exporting. If we're able to sustain that and grow the momentum, I think we're able to then stabilize, our FX inflow that will limit the pressure on the naira and by extension slow down inflation. But at the end of the day, what I foresee is that even if we don't achieve 15%, which I don't think we'll be able to achieve, we may hover around maybe 20-25%. But if that happens, it will be a good deal for Nigerians.
Okay, this budget, a lot of economists, and I'm sure yourself, have started to pick holes in this budget, especially for 2025. I'd like to start off first with the one that concerns a lot of Nigerians, and they're wondering why it seems to be a recurrent. It's recurring again. And that's got to do with the budget put in place to renovate the presidential villa. It's quite worrisome that the Joint Assembly, also the National Assembly, is already looking at the budget to be passed immediately. It's past the second reading, and we all know what that means. They haven't even taken time to look at these holes that are being picked. Over 5.4 billion naira set aside to renovate the presidential villa. Don't forget, the president also has set aside some funds earlier on to equally renovate the same presidential villa. During Buhari's time, we also saw about 11 billion naira as well set aside to renovate the presidential villa. What do you have to say as experts? Why is this reoccurring all the time in the budget? Is this some form, is it a constant K, like we all learned in school back then? Or there's something really wrong? And why isn't the National Assembly checking these things?
Well, what I would say is, you see, sometimes I think it's just best to look at these issues, objectively, and avoid some speculation. The reason I'm saying that is because renovation it's not a specific term. They are generic. It's a generic term. So when you say renovation, what exactly are you renovating? So I think we need to look into that detail of what exactly, and I'm sure maybe by the time the procurement exercise is now set in motion, we will be able to see exactly what is being renovated. If what is being renovated is as exactly what was renovated, the last time or during the former president's tenure, then I think we can then raise very strong, criticism around it. But if, like I said, renovation is a generic term. If what is now being renovated is different from what was done the last time, then maybe we can excuse it and say, okay, maybe there are additional needs in terms of where the president is. But I think over and above all, what I would like to stay on is those funds that have been allocated to critical socioeconomic sectors that will impact on the lives of Nigerians. And you also have mentioned, more than 4 trillion allocated to security, and then 3.5 trillion allocated to healthcare, to healthcare now, right? Yeah. Then you have about 2 trillion thereabouts allocated to the education sector. You have also appreciable amount of money allocated to infrastructure. So that shows the thinking of government, where he wants to go. For me, is that the performance of the budget is very crucial. And I've said it, in several forums, that the way the government interprets performance of the budget is not, does not sit well with me as a citizen, and I know that with many other citizens as well, because the way the government interprets performance is through the lens of fund releases. And I certainly don't agree with that, and I've disagreed with that for several years. When the president comes to present the budget for the succeeding year, and then now, speaking to the current fiscal year, I think the performance should be in terms of the deliveries, direct deliveries that affect the lives of Nigerians. And I'll give you an example. For instance, look at how much has been allocated to security over the last 5, 7, 10 years. Are we going to really sit back, and pat ourselves on the back and say we have done very well in terms of security, in terms of securing, the territory of this country to enable citizens to move freely? Meanwhile, the Constitution says that security, shall be the primary responsibility of government. And there is nothing, there is no development, because you cannot build something on nothing. So you cannot even talk about socioeconomic development without security, or improving the welfare of Nigerians without security. Can you travel 6 hours, 10 hours, straight in the northwestern part of this country, or the northeastern part of this country? Can you, in all fairness, organize a social function where you call everybody an open social function in the southeastern part of this country today. We all know what's happening. Many people even want to, organize social function in the southeastern part of the country, don't even go home. They stay somewhere, far away from there. So, and that speaks to the security of the country. And I think it's something that we should look, very keenly on and deal with it decisively. Also is that when you look at how security impacts other sectors of the economy, for instance, food production, we're dealing with food crisis right now. People are unable to afford, commodity prices in the market because prices are skyrocketing. And that's also because the farmers are unable, to go to farm freely, plant their, the products and harvest them freely and take them to the market. I think these are issues we need to look at. Also, is that you look at the impact of security on education. You look at the impact of security on virtually every sector of the economy. And now we're, allocating funds year in, year out. We are not seeing results. So these are areas that I want to see results. And I believe many Nigerians also want to see the result. So in terms of budget...
Sorry, before you go ahead, I just want to quickly interject there, since you're talking about security. So are you satisfied with the allocation, with the fact that defense got the highest allocation in the budget? Or do you think that maybe, that was a misplacement of allocation?
Well, I think the defense getting the highest chunk in the budget is well placed. If the monies will be used, effectively, efficiently, and economically, I think that's what is important. But you also know that security spending is there is little or no transparency around security spending. Why that is understandable, because you don't want to jeopardize national security issues. You don't want to put every of the information, whether the hardware and the software that you are purchasing, in public domain and allow the enemies to then, interject or plan against whatever the country is doing in terms of national security. I think is that whoever is managing, that place, and precisely now, the National Security Advisor, Malam Nur Ribadu, has very, huge responsibility cut out. Because this is not where we should be in terms of security, and certainly we shouldn't settle here. We should deal with this issue. Yes, we know that we don't have Boko Haram flags flying in any territory in the country again, but then they've metamorphosed into other kinds of insecurity groups. And we need to deal with it. For instance, look at what's happening in Sokoto State. Look at what's happening in Zamfara State. Last time I was in Katsina, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, just right there, we couldn't even travel freely in this western part of the country. And just 2 or 3 days after I left Katsina, I got information about a bridge that was bombed in that state. That's not the kind of thing we want to see, because it's going to further impact on other sectors, that affect, the lives of the citizens. And what I was trying to say before you butted in there is that the issue of budget performance should actually be through the lens of audit findings. Yes, that's what it should be, not in terms of funds that have been released to ministries, departments, and agencies. You can release funds and those funds are not performing. And I'll give you an example. For instance, the report of the Auditor General for 2021, and by the way, the latest report we have of the Auditor General is that of 2021. And 2022, 2023 is still outstanding. In any case, the 2021 report also took more than 30 months after the financial year ended. And that's sad. And those are issues that we need to deal with. That we are talking about the report of the Auditor General for 2021 in December 2024 is something that I think should worry the president. But to the context of my conversation is that report actually highlighted about 3.5 trillion naira that is not accounted for. That's equivalent to what's allocated to healthcare in 2025. You can imagine. That's also almost equivalent to the budget of 4 to 5 states combined. And 3.5 trillion not accounted for. And when you look into the details of that report, you then see 2.9 trillion not accounted for by just 8 ministries, departments, and agencies in terms of payments, due to the government and the taxes that ought to have been collected. And now we're talking about tax reform. So all of this, we are not showing that we are responsible physically in terms of our public finance management. And we need to deal with it. If we're going to, let's even assume that we're going to collect more money from those who have and collect less from those who have not. Whatever it is, we need to show responsibility in how we manage public finance. And that needs to reflect in how the 2025 budget will be executed.
Well, I think there are a lot of conversations around this appropriation bill, the 2025 budget, and I'm sure that in days to come we would continue to x-ray it. But the key indicator here and the bottom line, like they would say, is the implementation, and that's exactly what you have highlighted, and some other economists and also Nigerians who are worried about implementation. We've seen huge sums, we've seen numbers on paper, but it does not translate to reality. So everybody keeps wondering, why are they putting so much numbers on paper and money is being disbursed, yet nothing happens? I want to say thank you so much, Olusegun Elemo, for joining us, and we look forward to have you again. Hopefully, we would unearth more angles to this appropriation bill, and then we'll discuss further. Thank you for your time on a Friday.
Thank you for having me.
Great. All right, guys, it's been a fantastic one so far, so good, especially to all those who are on social media. We can see some of your reactions to this appropriation bill. Nigerians are still worried and still looking at how it would be used to benefit every single citizen or individual. But we'll talk more on this. Let's bring you a recap of some of the big stories that we've had so far so good this first hour here on Breakfast Central.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We have our papers to review this morning to share with you what the big stories are saying, and joining us is our analyst, Wade Ahime. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
You look like Christmas. You look like Christmas.
No stains.
Is the Christmas season, so
I've just started giving you rice.
I've just started giving rice.
Giving you rice. Or have you started
I've collected rice.
You have collected?
Yes, now even if it's 25 kg, at least I've collected.
I thought that's a bad part.
Yes, sir.
It is well. Okay, let's see what the Nigerian Tribune says this morning. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, federal government declares suspension of Edo local government chairman illegal. The question is whether Monday Okpewolo and his State House of Assembly will listen. But we'll look. I'm sure that we'll get Wade to share his thoughts on that shortly. But the sub-story there we see with July 11 Supreme Court judgment, removal of local government chairman is prerogative of local government legislative arm, according to the AGF. Dangote slashes petrol price to 899 naira per litre. Sanwo-Olu empowers police with 260 vehicles. Withdrawal of acting accountant general's appointment, presidency reacts. Budget 2025, government must improve tax to GDP ratio to meet 34.82 trillion naira revenue projection, according to LCCI. We will pursue creation of Ijebu State immunity, Awujale Agidigbo say. Senator Daniel seeks cooperation of indigents. Speaking about the Ibadan Funfair tragedy, police confirm 35 children dead and 6 critically injured. Very, very sad. Queen Naomi and 7 others detained. Tinubu demands probe. Oni, others mourn. Parents narrate ordeal. The Oni, of course, the palace has released a statement. This is really, really sad. Anyway, let's move away from the Nigerian Tribune to the Blueprint newspaper.
Well, moving on to that paper now, let's go straight to what we have on the front page of our next paper. And it says, Wike revokes Buhari Foundation, Abbas, Akume, Onogen's land titles. By the way, an update on that story as well. Buhari's former spokesman has come out to say that it did not belong, that property does not belong to the former president, and he's disassociated himself from that. Anyway, Dangote Refinery reduces petrol price to 899.50 per litre. I dare say again that when you're a smart businessman, you know how to take advantage of the current situation of things. And he also added that you can buy, if you pay for one truck, you get one on credit. December.
Buy one, get one
Buy
free.
one, get one. Not free. No.
Buy one, get one delayed.
No, buy one.
Buy one, get one payment delayed.
How do you put that? You know there was bug off. Buy one, get one free. How do you put this one? Buy one, get one.
Buy
free.
one, borrow one. Because it's borrow.
Bogok. Buy one, get one on credit.
No, buy one. Okay, get one on credit.
Yeah,
Buy one, borrow. Anyway, that's sabi.
All right. Anyway, outgoing AGF maiden posts Attorney General to Public Service Institute. Okay, that story. I think Olive also took that in the other paper. Ibadan school stampede. Oni's ex-wife Naomi, school principal, 6 others arrested. Very sad. 24 hours after presentation, Senate reps passed 49.7 trillion naira 2025 budget for second reading. And Nigerians are wondering how fast and swift they were or are to pass this budget. So quick, so quick.
They're standing on a mandate.
Anyway, that's all we're going to take on the blueprint. Let's have our guests go in. Let's dig in quickly, and if time permits, we'll take 1 or 2 more papers. But because of time, let's see how we can utilize our time for these stories. Let's start off first with the Stampede in Ibadan. How did you feel when you heard about that story?
So I felt bad. I felt sad. First and foremost, condolences to the families of those who lost their children. Initially, it was 32. Today, it's 35. We don't know how many there are going to be. I hope it stops at this 35. And a number injured. But the fact remains that in Nigeria, we don't plan properly for events. We just believe that having an event is just about the people coming there and either paying money or having fun, and that's the end. Even when you go to places, you just don't plan properly, and we see that, and that's what happened here. You can't plan for 5,000 people. You don't provide the necessary safety precautions, security precautions, health precautions, and then you say, oh, there were 7,500 people. If you provided all those things, then you would stop at 5,000 people. And I know you say, oh, Nigerians, the Stampede and all, but Stampede is not only in Nigeria. It happens everywhere you have an event. It could happen everywhere you have an event. It's just pure negligence, in my own opinion, complete negligence on the part of the people. And if, in my own opinion, it's pure negligence, what does the law say? And then we should pass through that process. So all this of, oh, the president says they should do a probe, the police should do their work, investigate what happened. Did they put all the things that were necessary to be put in place? If they did not, then they were negligent. And I don't know what you call that. Maybe my legal friends will, maybe...
It is negligence.
Yeah, and if it's negligence and these children died, I don't know what, is it manslaughter or whatever, or child slaughter? And that's what you should now be doing towards getting or going through a justice system. Not all these ones on the newspaper and say, probe this, don't probe that. We've probed so many things in Nigeria. This is December, events left, right, and center. Are you with me? Just watch what will happen. I think it was 2-3 years ago, my nephew and my nieces went to the beach for a birthday party for one of my other nieces. They came home at 3 a.m. Why? Because one person was having a show at that Lekki axis, and coming out of Lekki back onto the mainland, there was no road. I had to leave my brother's place in Surulere at 2:30 a.m. and I still go home at 4 a.m. when I was still in Lekki. So it's just ridiculous in 2019.
So, I mean, you've highlighted certain key areas. The fact that as we get inch closer and closer to the new year, there will be more and more events.
Oh, yes.
The traffic will be much because there are more events. So what that means is we need to go the extra mile to ensure that we put measures in place to guarantee the
Aside from that, Nigerians need to go the extra mile and be disciplined enough to let others have a way. You don't park on the middle of the road because you're going to an event. You don't park on the highway. For you to block two lanes on the Lekki Expressway that has 3 lanes on one side, it's just completely ridiculous. And nobody says anything, nobody does anything. And then people sit in traffic going home. or going out somewhere because we just feel that, oh, there's no other place to park. Event managers, there should be things done to those who plan those events and don't plan properly for traffic management and all.
But I can tell you categorically here that there are steps to these things, and I can categorically tell you that these steps were ignored in the case of Oyo State. There's no way you will plan an event today if you are a professional event planner, and I can say this because some of the colleagues in the industry know that it is the norm, it is the rule. One, you need to get, if you're doing an event of, first of all, you need to understand your crowd. If your crowd is between 300 to 500, it doesn't matter. You still have to get clearance from, you need to get the LASMA involved. Especially if it's a large event, LASMA must be involved. I'm talking about Lagos. They have the same in all your interpretation, so to say. You must also get your medical, you have to pay for the ambulances. You need to have ambulances stationed as well at your event, looking at the number. Car park must be controlled. You have to mark areas where you can park and where you can't park. We see all these things. These are the norm. Any event planner knows these things. Well, not any, in this case. A professional event planner knows that these are the rules you must follow. But in this case, I'm thinking that we saw a case where, when you have quack doctors, so can we now say maybe quack event planners as well? Yes, everybody's an event planner. That's the problem we have. Everybody's an event planner, and this is the result. This is what you get.
I mean, from the report we're seeing here, according to the report that we took this morning in the news, that the event was targeting 5,000 people.
Which is too much.
And then they ended up catering to 7,500. So there are so many layers of problems. First of all, is the fact that there's even hunger in the land. Because that's why they came there. A number of them, I mean, there were promises of goodies to be won, 5,000 naira to be given to people.
And I agree. However, it doesn't change the fact that first and foremost, in planning an event, especially for children. Are you with me? We must first and foremost be human, irrespective of the fact that there's hunger in the land. And I agree completely that there's hunger in the land. Is it better now for 35 children to be dead and there's still hunger in the land?
My other question or concern would be, are we going to learn a lesson from this?
Until the justice system, are you with me, takes its full course properly. Of course, you're not going to learn.
So when you say the justice system taking its full effect properly, what would that look like?
If the investigation goes through, are you with me? And you, like you said, you find pure negligence, then for me, correct me if I'm wrong, it's willful negligence if you don't do the things that you're supposed to do to plan an event. It means that what you did was that you didn't prepare at all. And for me, if you know what the rules are and you don't apply them, then it's willful negligence, which is even worse than just negligence.
I mean, I can categorically tell you this.
Let the justice, when I say justice, take it through prosecution. And like I said, I don't know. You have the legal. You have a better understanding of the law or legal issues than me. Is it manslaughter? It could be. And if it's manslaughter, what does the law say? Because you've killed innocent children. Whether you say there's hunger in the land or there are goodies to be shared, you plan for 5,000, you have a crowd of 75,000, or 7,000.
Now, what was the plan for 5,000? So you know why things like this keep happening? Remember the immigration saga where there was Stampede?
Exactly.
From that one, did anything happen?
Like you said.
What about the NIN?
Okay, let's even do all these things. And that's what I'm saying, that until you do the right thing, let's stop kidding ourselves. The president says, oh, let's probe. It's not, the president should offer his condolences, but it's not for him to come out and say, oh, let's go and probe what happened. It's for the police. To check what happened and pass it through the system if there's a system to be passed through.
Permit me to say this. I mean, for the fact that the ex-Ooni's wife has also been arrested, we also saw, I think, the owner of the radio the radio station that was in partnership, in tandem with this organizer.
Although they've said they were not in partnership, their own statement is that
he
they came
so.
to announce the show on their platform. That they even had their own separate party. That's what part of the report.
That's what they said. I mean, possibly they were media partners. So let's put it that way.
He said, she said.
Yeah, he said, she said.
Well,
we're going to get a lot of this. See, we've seen, personally, I've seen a case where an event was ongoing. We could break out. I mean, if we get an event, a professional event planner here, you would see we'll be able to break out a lot of things that went wrong. First of all, if you look at the footage of that venue, I'm concerned. If that was my event, I'm worried. Like, why is it so opened? Like, where are the security guards? Where are they coming in from? Was it gated? Was it ticketed? Now look at the canopies and all that. Look at the crowd. It was too much.
We can speak from now.
Anyway.
Even your own if people are doing their personal events and they use event spaces or even your compound, the way we behave as a people is just what is reflected.
I think like Olive said, the announcement of the 5K, I think that's where the challenge came from. And trust me, when you tell, if New Central announces now, if Wade announces now on this platform that we're giving 1,000 naira outside the gate,
you see
find your way here. We have 2 million to give out. I'm sure this studio, maybe they will carry the camera and the lights. They will hang on top of these lights.
Yeah,
and
but you see, if
I
I have 2 million to give out and I want to give out 1K, then I must put a proper process in place.
That's it. That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying.
But let's I will say, okay, every day 100 people should come to New Central. However, this is how you get there.
You know, in all of this,
I've worked with people who planned events. I've worked in committees, in organizations where you have to work with event planners. And these are critical things.
Very
there
critical.
Are processes, there are procedures that need to be followed, and if you don't follow them, you don't even apply one at all. Then for me, like I said, in my own opinion, is willful negligence.
I'm really sorry for the kids, the lives that have been lost, and we express and extend our condolences to the parents and the family members who are mourning the loss of lives, as a result of this stampede. The 35 children who have unfortunately passed, the 6 who are struggling for their health in the hospital. We hope and we wish them speedy recovery. We hope that they're reunited with their parents soon. And I also do feel some level of sympathy or empathy for Queen Naomi. And why I feel that for her is because I don't think that she set out to do this to hurt people. She had good intentions. It's just unfortunate, that things have turned out this way. And I'm hoping that the lesson from this is for when we are doing events to get proper event planners, and that these proper event planners, every event planner in Nigeria, I'm hoping they're seeing this and they are putting into place, systems and structures to ensure that when a client comes to say to you, I want to do an event of this magnitude, if it's something beyond your capacity, say, oh, I've never done 5,000 capacity event, let me move to somebody else, because you know that if you don't handle it well, you will be thrown in jail.
You see, one thing I learned over my career is the ability to tell you, oh, I don't know. I don't know this. I will go find out and come back to you.
Period.
End of story. They can't kill you.
I would also use this medium. Let me also say this. I mean, we're national television. Having seen events done in different capacity, in terms of, I've done events 2 years. We've done highest events of 25,000 capacity. You would, in the planning stage, when we started the planning and everything, you would see where there are checkpoints. Now, I guess another thing, especially when you learn under the foreigners, let's be honest, I learned a lot under them. They would tell you, okay, fine, make room for exigencies, make room for, now, where are the exit doors, where are this? Now, if it's a public space, what if we have we also had a case, Olive, that we've also not highlighted. The young lad, that died at a children's event, electrocuted as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh yes, I remember that.
You see that? At the school, and nobody's going to talk about that. Now, I've seen an event where the event was ongoing, and guess what? There are rules. There are rules to this thing. If you're going to tape a cable, if you're going to run a cable, ensure that they are covered. Now, there are different types of covers. You must get the right cover. But what we see is sometimes they say there's nothing. They use rope or they get sellotape. They just put it there. What if it's naked, it's opened? So
Why did that child girl electrocuted?
It was opened.
Naked wires.
It was naked, it was
So
opened.
let's manage
the quack.
this.
Let's manage
Let's
the
put it
quack,
together.
and it's our system, it's a systemic
I
problem.
was hosting an event once, and the next thing I just saw that there was some form of chaos in the hall. What happened? Somebody had collapsed in the hall, and I freaked out. Thankfully, the planners had the foresight to have a medical personnel
That's
on
it.
ground.
That's all you need.
And immediately
You
the
need.
doctor sprung into action, and we found out that it was a case where she had low blood sugar, and they just gave her sugar to drink and took her out and took care of her. And the event continued as planned. And that moment stood out for me and said, you must always prioritize this. Whenever you're having an event, you should try your best to always prioritize it.
To be honest,
Yes,
I know we're talking about this for so
think we've
long,
stated a lot on
but
this.
to be honest,
let's
guys,
move.
it is part of the Lagos State law. Let me say it here now. It is part of Lagos State law that if you're having any event, I do event yearly, you must get the document, you must fill it, you must sign, and you must pay. It's part of the law.
All right.
So nobody should think that. So it means somebody did something wrong there and neglected. It's for me, basically, I don't know, but it's sad.
All right, let's move on to the big story in the Nigerian Tribune. I've been waiting for you to talk about that. Federal government declares suspension of Edo local government chairman illegal. The governor has suspended them because they have refused to send their financial reports. He's asked for a financial report. They've refused to send it. He suspended them, set up a committee of investigation, I think an 8-man panel, to investigate these local government chairmen. Do I call them former local government chairmen?
No, they're still local
government chairmen on suspension. The arguments have been, some would say, yes, he has a right to. Others would say, no, he's the executive. Why? Who gave you the right as a governor to suspend these people? If there's anyone who should be looking into the affairs, there's a local government council and not the governor. So it's just different arguments, and I just wanted to get your thoughts and see maybe which side you're on.
Which side am I on? So when you consider how it's put in the constitution, in reality, local government has some form of autonomy, but works under the state. So, in my opinion, in my opinion, yes, I don't think the governor has the right to suspend them. He has the right to get the Auditor General, are you with me, of the state, or the audit system of the state to go look into those things. And then at that point in time, you now start saying, oh, what does the law say? They're elected officials for as long as they've been elected. Do you understand? Yeah. And you see more and more states now doing elections. However, the outcome is a different thing. But they're doing elections because there's a local government electoral process. You understand? But this, in my own opinion, they still report through the council or even independently to the chief executive of the state, because it's part of the state. And part of that funding that is being budgeted for whatever is being done in the local government has to pass through the system of the state. Local government, so how do you budget? Nigeria's 47 trillion that is budgeted now is an inclusion of all the 36 states. So let nobody make the mistake. And the state's 1 trillion is based on through the local government system. Do you have the right to suspend them? I don't know. The Attorney General has said it's illegal, and so I will stick with what he has to say. But in terms of reporting, in my own opinion, local government chairmen, both through the council, report to the state chief executive or to the state council. And the state is, what's it called? The state legislative arm oversees all the activities that happen within the state. You can't plan in a state for a budget. Are you with me? And there is no local government input. It's not possible. So go do your probe. Yeah, you want to suspend them, and I think I get the idea. Suspend them while you're probing, so that you don't see someone is trying to what's it called?
Cover up evidence.
Cover up anything. And I think that's the approach he's taking.
Well, we did have a guest join us who's part of the committee in Edo State, and we also had a lawyer who equally joined us, and it was a case of yes, he can, and no, he can't. As the executive governor of the state, Senator Monday Okpebolo cannot. That's what our other guest said, while a member of the committee said yes, he can, according to the laws of that governs the state. They kept mentioning Section 7, and Section 7 was brought out that the governor has the right and so on. But then again, I think one of the key points or the highlight was that you cannot, these are elected, they were elected into office. They were not chosen by you. They are not like your members of cabinets that you could bring and so on. But I think it makes a jolly good conversation to have them back again, hopefully, and look at the intricacies, because I do recall, and I think, you know, we also need to look at this. It seems like this is like a ripple effect of what we've been seeing in the past 8 months, hence why we say there's an eye on the judiciary, because it seems everybody is just doing as they like. Let's use it that way in the Nigerian context. Everybody's going beyond. I mean, we've seen Wike now destroying houses. They've called him, stop destroying. You may have the right, but you're not giving people ample time. So come forth and explain to us. And there's still statements that even if heaven falls, I will still destroy. So where's the judiciary here? Can people go to the courts and say, please hang on, let him... So a lot of things are...
A number of all these things, so first and foremost, I think, Emmanuel, I will have to confirm this. The jurisdiction for local government and state starts with the state high court. But you've seen, are you with me? People go to federal high court and get an injunction here, injunction there, injunction. It's like the same thing that happened in Kano, and I think we spoke about it then. Where does the jurisdiction lie? The state high courts. If it goes through the state high courts and a decision is passed, the only other place it can go to is to the appeal courts, and then to the Supreme Court to interpret. But this idea of sitting down somewhere and saying, oh, where people go to the proper jurisdiction or the right jurisdiction as interpreted by the Supreme Court, not once, several times, then it beats me.
Anyway,
okay.
Let's check out the story.
Wike is still revoking now. So the front page of I think it's the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
So let me just quickly say something. Has anybody actually sat down to find out
why?
No, not why. What is the process to revoke a C of O? Because in Abuja, and I think if I get the laws right, the only authority to revoke land, if it has been signed on as a C of O, is the governor of a state. It means that for land to be assigned to someone in Abuja, it has to pass through the person who oversees Abuja, and that's the presidency. That's the president's signature for C of O's in Abuja. It's not the minister.
So that's another argument that has sprung up.
People have to be very careful when you say, oh, I'm the minister of the Fed. You report.
You report to the.
So there must be a process.
So
if there is something that you now say, oh, we need to revoke all of this, are you with me? It should pass through that process and say, Mr. President, as the chairman of the Federal Capital Territory, who signs, I don't think there's any land. I don't think there's anybody who has the what's it called? There's nobody in Abuja that has the right to give you C of O that is not signed by a president.
So what you're saying in essence, and I get where you're coming from, because Section 1 of the Land Use Act of 1978 provides that, you know, all lands, you know, the governor is the one who has the authority.
Yes.
You know, so I think all lands are held in trust.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't want to
something like that.
But however,
even the federal government to take land from the state, it has to be an agreement
with the governor. So my question is, are you saying in essence, because I've seen this argument, that all the powers that are that are assigned to the governor of a state to be able to revoke CFO, in this case, it's saying a number of them haven't paid their statutory fees. In fact, there's what they call Buhari Foundation. Abbas, Akume, all those land titles.
I don't know.
So over 700 land titles have been revoked. Are you saying that from where you stand, Wike does not stand in the position and does not have the power of a governor, which...
Oh, no, he doesn't in Abuja. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Go and look at the Constitution correctly. He doesn't. In essence, the president is the de facto governor.
I mean, many have also said that
yes.
Wike should remember that he's not a state governor
I just
anymore.
wanted to quickly quote it. Section 1 of the Land Use Act, all land comprised in the territory of each state in the Federation are vested in the governor of the state, and such governor of that state and such land should be held in trust and administered for
Wike
the use
is not the
and common
chief
benefit of all
executive
Nigerians.
officer of Abuja.
Well, he answers to the
Okay.
assembly, and hopefully now that they've put a
He
stop
answers
to, they said he answers to the assembly. He
The
has
National
to.
Assembly.
National Assembly, he has to show up. They said if you've called him, you need to show up and explain to us
He
that
is
you
not
can't
the
take
chief
the actions
executive
yourself.
officer of Abuja.
Okay, that one is another
Well,
conversation.
that's a different
for
conversation.
another day.
But what we do know is, I think there's a halt to the destruction
The demolitions,
so far. The
yes, so
demolition.
far, because
there's
there's
a halt.
investigations being carried out. Wadi Ahmed, thank you so much for joining
And
us.
thank you for having me. Compliments of the season. Wishing you guys a Merry Christmas.
Because I don't know
Thank
that
you.
we'll see you before Christmas again, so Merry Christmas. Christmas is in 5 days, so I don't know if we'll have
That's
you
on a
before then.
Wednesday.
Yes, the best day of the week. We'll go on a break now. When we come back, we have more stories this morning. Stay with us. National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, in a recent report disclosed that Nigerians paid 2.23 trillion naira in ransom to kidnappers between May 2023 and April 2024. According to the NBS Crime Experience and Security Perception Survey, 51.89 million crime incidents were recorded nationwide during the period, with the Northwest leading with 14.4 million cases, followed by the North Central region with 8.8 million. The Southeast reported the least crime with 6.18 million incidents. The survey also showed that 65% of households affected by kidnapping incidents resorted to paying ransoms to secure the release of victims, with only 36.3% of households choosing to report the incidents to the police due to lack of confidence in law enforcement.
Well, the reports have it that Adeniro Adeyemi, the Statistician General of the Federation, was invited for questioning by the Department of State Services over the published survey scrutinizing the methodology and data used in the report. The Daily Post has debunked this report, stating that the DSS confirmed to them that it did not invite the Statistician General. Well, joining us now is a criminologist and security consultant, Professor Agidigbo. Thank you for being here this morning. Let's start off first with your take on the findings when you saw that report. What did you make out of it?
Well, when I saw that report, I felt that it wasn't something that should have been released to the public. Now, it's going to have a great effect on our image as a nation, because sending out to the public is like sending out to the entire world. And of course, you know that there are indices for measuring safety in every country. Automatically, that will already discourage a lot of people from considering Nigeria as a safe place. Because if we paid 2.2 trillion naira on ransom, it means that nobody is safe in Nigeria. Because that, of course, can be the budget of a very small nation. And you will all know that that should be the budget of many local government combined, or many states combined in Nigeria, like 5-6 states combined in Nigeria. They use that kind of budget. And that was spent on, or as ransom for releasing people who have been kidnapped.
So when you say that,
So
you don't think that,
wasn't-
when you say that you don't think that this report should have been reported or should have been released, you know, but
It
those who would
should
say,
have been.
okay, so
Should
what
have been.
is it because of public perception, you know, to investors or those outside Nigeria, or is it because of we Nigerians here, and maybe you think the impact it might have on the kidnapping syndicates, maybe sort of solidifying their confidence levels and the ability to expand that they may perceive after this report has been released? Is that what it is?
Okay, this is what I feel. If you have a figure like this, you keep it as an intelligence, and then you begin to work. When you work and you are sure that you have brought it down to a minimum level, you now release it at another year, stating that in a previous year we had this. Nobody had that information. In a previous year we had this. Today we have this. And then it will show how much you have worked to reduce kidnapping in Nigeria. The thing is, when crime is high, nobody wants to go there. So investors will no longer be interested because they are not safe. The people that are there will also not feel safe.
Well, many have said
This is
that.
the point that I'm trying to make.
Okay.
Now, if you want to leave Nigeria today and claim that your reason for seeking, what do they do when they go to other parts of the world and then
Asylum?
seeking refuge? Asylum is due to safety. It will be taken. Because if a country is now releasing that this much is paid as ransom for kidnapping, people will no longer feel safe. It will be taken because it was released as a public news.
Do you have any inkling, or do you think that this was linked to why the NBS site was said to go under, or crashed, or went down? And also, do you think, because according to the report, some Nigerians have refused to even step forward, some victims rather, have refused to report cases. So it shows that maybe the number could be slightly higher. So what do you think? Do you think this is an accurate depiction or number? And do you also think that it could have been higher than what we have now?
Okay, naturally, it is higher than what we have now. You see, in crime, there is what we call crime unreported and crime unobserved. We only have reported cases here. There are some, or there were some that were not reported, and there were some that we did not even know happened. So those two plus this figure will give us something higher than what we have. There is no part of the world where the crime figure is reliable. We always call it, or we always refer to it as a dark figure. So it doesn't represent it. Instead, it is more, not less, more, a lot more.
In a country that outlaws payment to kidnappers, we're still seeing that the numbers are increasing. What does this tell us? First of all, about that law, criminalizing paying or forbidding payments to terrorists. And what does that tell us about where we are, in that area, and also our security situation?
There's no part of the world where the payment is encouraged. The payment can be like a bait, but it's not encouraged. But you know that when the person kidnapped is a family member, you have to avoid the law enforcement agencies when you are told not to. Now, the person we are talking about, the person in question is not related to the government. The person is related to you. So you tend to be very emotional about the whole thing, unless you do not have such feeling for that person. But when the government tells you that, well, they make it sound so because they are not the ones affected. But then when they are also affected, they also try to pay the ransom. I have information on cases that happened many years ago to government officials. I chose not to mention the name. Ransom were paid. So, okay, ransom was paid just once. And within hours, the person was released. They will pay, and there were no lives that were lost. The kidnappers were not even apprehended. So it's very difficult for you to say that we have outlawed payment of ransom, when in reality, you are not the one concerned. Nobody will listen to the government. And that makes it easier for this transaction to be very fast, because if it is outlawed, nobody will mention it. They ask me for, I will not mention it because I want my family member to be released. So I make the payment, everybody's happy, and we'll all go home.
I mean, you're a criminologist, and you've also worked very closely with security issues. There's one key question everyone seems to ask. Why is it so difficult to track the account? That is, if money is done via transfer, USSDs and the likes. Why is it so difficult to track these accounts? And why is it so difficult as well to track the phone devices where calls are being made to families of the kidnapped victim?
Okay, you see, Security is a lot of investment. There is no phone number that cannot be tracked. Unfortunately, we know that there are some SIM cards that are not registered and are working. You are going to tell me that every SIM card must have an NIN. But in the real sense of it, there are lots of phone numbers that are not connected to NIN and are functioning. I have evidence to prove that, okay? And I have a lot of evidence to also prove that there are lots of people whose phone numbers are connected to NIN, but when you get to the NIN, all you will see is just the picture and the name. No other trace information will be found there. How does this happen? I have one with me that has, I'm on a case where I have found the NIN. I have brought out the person's information, but I cannot find the address there, the next of kin. Nothing is there. How did it happen? So which means that there's corruption somewhere. Maybe in NIMC, maybe in the network communication companies, but there is corruption somewhere. So all of these are possible. And I don't think Nigeria is ready to. Nigeria might have all of these things. They actually do. But do they have those who can use these devices? Are they willing to use it for you? Because when I want to track, for example, if you go to the police, police will refer you to someone else. Meanwhile, if you want to have an individual track system, they tell you it's only law enforcement agencies that can have it. So you see now. So you are in distress. You run to the police, you are asked to pay. And then you make multiple payments and it still doesn't lead you anywhere. So this is the issue, and it's a big one, because if it's not going to take you anywhere, why am I wasting time? It's going to take a lot more time working with the police. But when you transact with these individuals, you get the result and then you go. And that is why most people will not have their cases reported. And of course, that figure is a lot more than that.
All right. I mean, it's just really a complicated situation. I think as we enter into 2025, what are your projections for our battle against kidnapping?
Well, if we don't put checks in place, what do I mean by checks? We have to employ the use of technology. We have to, of course, reduce or eliminate corruption in law enforcement, in government, and all other stakeholders. We have to eliminate the fear people have for the military. And then we have to remove the distrust that people have for the law enforcement agencies. If we can remove mistrust, eliminate fear, remove corruption, use technology or leverage technology, then we'll have a better Nigeria. I wish we could have that in 2025.
Do you think?
Because there's a lot of pressure on the government releasing this information, whether it is fake or real, is already putting a lot of pressure on the government. So they are going to do all that they can to ensure that kidnapping is reduced.
So, riding on this statement you just made, many have said that it is even good that it was released so that the government would know that Nigerians also know what is really happening. And hopefully this administration will work harder to fine-tune what you also said earlier, that they will try and ensure that they reduce the numbers, meaning that the NBS will be expected to release another one, that is if the website comes back and all is well. But let me ask the final question, please.
But there's something, the idea of releasing crimes on the social media is not actually good for a government. You see, it's only in this part of the world that we keep releasing information on the social media. Crimes happen everywhere. They happen more elsewhere.
Yeah.
Do you think it's only in Nigeria that we have Yahoo boys or cyber criminals? But we post that every day in Nigeria. Then that image that when you want a Yahoo boy or a cyber criminal, the first country that comes to your mind is Nigeria, and it's because you always release it. Sometimes we keep them as intelligence, and then it helps us in coming up with policies that will be unknown to those who perpetrate these crimes. And then gradually we'll bring them down.
But how do you expect to stop the crime or mitigate the entire situation without letting the public know that, oh, this is what happens to those who have been caught? Remember a very popular TV program, Crime Fighters, where crime was being broadcast to all Nigerians every Sunday. I do recall watching that because you learn, your parents will tell you, please watch, this is what you'll become if you follow this way. Don't you think it's the same message being sent? We see the EFCC also do the same.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
You can come out when you have caught them.
Oh, okay.
But you don't come out to release a figure that will scare people away from the nation.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Olive?
Yes, so I guess, I mean, like you said, we just have to ensure that we put measures in place. We're a bit concerned about what 2025 will look like in terms of banditry and kidnapping, but we're hoping that the budget of restoration, having had the highest allocation to defense, would yield some positive results in that regard. We thank you very much for your time with us this morning, and we wish you a wonderful rest of the weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
All right.
All right.
All right, we're coming fast to the end of the show, and it's, the weekend begins, of course, today for us here, but Breakfast Extra will be back tomorrow, and on Sunday, remember to join Breakfast Extra to follow up with some of the stories that we've started to track, as well as developing stories that will come up during the course of the weekend.
That's right, and don't forget that the budget has passed its second reading. We've seen tweets of people say this is like, it's always speedy. It's always fast whenever it's got to do with
because they
government.
need to hit the ground running.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I forgot.
The administration is to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and what are you going to do in the second year? Keep running. Yeah, that's true. Okay, but we need to run out of the studio. I'll be around for the news at 9 to let you know what the latest stories are and updates, especially from where we stopped here on Breakfast Central. Don't forget to follow us on all socials. If you missed any of our interviews from Monday through to Friday, go on YouTube, follow News Central TV, and you can watch all of them. And you can also drop a comment or two. I am Joe Hansen, and I'm wishing you a very wonderful weekend.
And as I wrap up, I want to use this opportunity to give a shout out to Timileyin Ooni of Ife, who dared to dream and pursue her dream, competing in the Miss Nigeria contest. I'm very proud of you. And just to say to you watching, as the year comes to an end, whatever dream is in your heart, it's never too late to chase after it. And even if you don't get there, you will be proud of yourself for actually putting yourself out there. I'm Olive MOD. I know it's Friday. Do not drink and drive. Turn up with sense. I'll see you on Monday.